The world is a sick place. In spite of its beauty, millions of humans suffer, many of them unnecessarily, even amongst your friends and family. And the healthcare industry still relies heavily on outdated and inefficient modes of working. However, in the Nordic region, world leading in health tech, entrepreneurs and startups are working towards a paradigm shift. Many of these are part of HealthTech Nordic, a community accelerating the growth of startups as well as uniting pioneers to create better health worldwide. HealthTech Nordic isn't about the future. It's about the hundreds of startups acting here and now, about the hundreds of worldwide solutions already in use. It's also about those in development, with innovations far beyond what many thought previously possible. Healthcare isn't always about finding treatment. It's also about the ability to distribute them, or even preventing the need for them altogether. With digital tools and solutions, the existing healthcare capacity can increase dramatically, not only saving lives, but also leading to a better quality of life, with more possibilities and less dependency. The world is a sick place. However, through providing new and better ways of giving and receiving healthcare, the companies within HealthTech Nordic are at the forefront of a paradigm shift. We already have the digital tools and solutions to empower you as an individual, as a patient, or as a healthcare provider. Together, we can change how we view healthcare. Together, we can change how the world cares.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the annual HealthTech Nordic Conference, and welcome to the HealthTech movement. My name is Anett, and I have the honor of being your host for today's conference as we journey into the future of health tech and take a look at where we've been, what the last year has brought us, and look into the future and see how health tech is going to change world care. We'll start by taking a quick look back at a very turbulent year, see what that has brought health tech, healthcare, and all of us. And then we'll take a quick break after an hour to look into next year and beyond and see how we'll change the world. We'll bring you people at the forefront of the health tech movement and share with you real evidence of benefits to humanity. Now, we're optimists here. So we're convinced that within a few years, we'll all be happier, healthier, and health tech has succeeded in making healthcare affordable for all. So we hope to take you on a journey today, inspire you, and have you join the movement. Throughout the conference, please engage with us in the chat, ask questions, share your insights. And now, let's get started. Let's start by looking back at this turbulent last year. 2020, we like to call it the perfect storm for health tech. And to tell you what we actually mean by that, here's Aldo Vermiglio to shed some light on 2020. Aldo, please.
Thank you, Anett. Hello to everyone and welcome to HealthTech Nordic. Does everybody see my presentation? I think it's good there. So when we talk about health tech and the perfect storm and what has happened through 2020, well, why do we call it a perfect storm? We've given the fact that there has been a global emergency during this year. And the world has reached out in several ways to be able to deliver care to other people, given that there was even an impossibility of being able to reach patients. And there was health tech, an industry awaiting, an industry that came in to solve a lot of these problems and took the leap of several years in just a few months. And throughout this journey, I will take you through 6 different overarching areas that actually signaled that health tech during 2020 has been an industry that has catapulted in the advancement of its penetration around the world. And I will walk you through, or maybe jog you through different signals that might have been unrelated or seem unrelated, but then when you see them in an aggregated way, you can there see the advancement that health tech has given to the world. And we will start with awareness goes mainstream. This is a study of the World Economic Forum and Boston Consulting Group in analyzing how different issues in a ranking were put in mainstream media. And as you see, pre-COVID-19, health tech or telemedicine was not even showing. And now you can see that during 2020, it is in the 3rd place of all talked about things and headlines in mainstream media. And it has gone to even unimaginable corners of the world. This is a newspaper publication from Peru, in the most important newspaper of Peru, saying that telemedicine, digital health, has a right to Peru and is here to stay. Another thing we would like to go through is the relaxed regulations around the world. In the US, the relaxed HIPAA. In the UK, taking a stand on revising information sharing. In Germany, the new Digital Health Tech Act that was put in place last year, but it is has been very awaited during this year. Tara Donnelly from NHSX telling us that in September, they announced a new procurement framework in support of remote care, just in September, and being prepared in just a few months. In Latin America, governments are taking shortcuts, putting in temporary regulations to admit health tech into their frameworks, and probably they will stay that way. Also, investors react. There's a migration from non-health funds to health tech. Health portfolios will prove to be very solid investments in times like this. 55 new mental health companies have appeared, drawing in more than $500 million. Revenue increase in some health tech companies with more than 700%. And investors saying that there is no doubt that patient-provider experience during these past months has accelerated virtual models. Also, when we talk about markets being receptive and smart networks being receptive, we talked about the US, topic on the mainstream, huge adoption of televisits, relaxed regulation, agnostic investors coming into health tech. Nordics, widely talked about, big institutions actually seeing the benefits. Solutions, procurement slowed down, but the adoption of the solutions that were already in place have hugely surged. In the UK again, in March, adding a new solution that was live in 4 weeks, that was recommended by a doctor, and now 50 sites by Christmas. And it is not only taking the developed world, the middle-income economies are actually also taking the leap. 50 million Indians accessed healthcare online from March to May 2020. 80% of those patients were accessing it for the first time. Private actors in Mexico engaging much faster, modeling in their models the benefits of health tech. Brazil telling us the change is coming bottom up. And then institutions like the WHO saying how health tech can help them fulfill the needs of vulnerable populations. So we are really seeing that change. And when we talk about specifically about COVID-19, HealthTech is actually relieving. We first started with online visits. In the UK, GP visits from 70% done by in distance or through video to 90% in video. The US, in March, 11,000 video visits. In April, 1.3 million video visits. In India, a HealthTech surge. Kind, one of our fellow HealthTech Nordic companies, has seen a surge in its users in Brazil. Then we go to remote monitoring of chronics and intelligent decision support. A fellow company like Acumbo, several 100% increase in usage of its solution. Using CBT, online CBT for mental health. In arthritis, Joint Academy, another of our companies, US surge in terms of users. And it is also overachieving, not only solving problems, but also overachieving. In this new UK remote monitoring digital program, launched in 2020, 70% of the patients reduce their time in rage by 20%. They are already thinking about putting this in use of people with learning disabilities and manage their long-term conditions through remote monitoring of chronic conditions tool. Our company from HealthTech Nordic, Lifebot, was seeked by the region of Skåne here in Sweden to solve one chronic disease issue, and then it went all the way to 8. Another company from HealthTech Nordic, Checkware, using remote monitoring for patients with conditions even such as epilepsy. And there's where we see the real first steps of a real paradigm shift on the way people are thinking about health tech. Annie Lemmet from OKHC, a very important VC fund in the US, starts saying that doctors and consumers have actually realized how much they can do virtually with home care and remote monitoring, and that can be even safer than institutional care. And Per-Ola Kindblad, Deputy CEO of Skåne University Hospital, who you will see later, saying we can't handle this situation without health tech. There has been a point of no return that has been reached, said by Tova Yexmark, head of innovation of Ramsay Santé. Of course, there's also always challenges and thresholds. Reimbursement models have to be totally reshuffled. Data and interoperability laws need to be relaxed. Cybersecurity needs to be put more solid. And there's, of course, institutional and cultural issue. It's harder sometimes to convince colleagues within the professional healthcare work than patients. But we have gone really, really far during 2020, saying there is already enough tech to make the change, and breaking the glass by different stakeholders is what is necessary. And now I question myself and question all of you. Does this look really like a perfect storm? If you go back in time, not 10 years, but 10 months, and you see what has happened, I would say, is this a perfect storm? Hell yeah. Thank you so much, and back to Anett.
Thank you, Aldo. Wow. I think we can all agree the future is already here. But let's not stop here. So before we head on to proven and available solutions for people living with chronic conditions, let's listen into Marianne, who interviews the Deputy CEO of Skåne University Hospital and the Head of Innovation at Falussy, one of the world's largest private healthcare providers, on what they see at the front line of this perfect storm and digitalization.
I'm Marianne Larsson, and I'm the director of HealthTech Nordic, and I have invited here with me Per-Ola Kindblad, Deputy CEO of Skåne University Hospital, and Tova Jäxmark, Head of Innovation at Ramsay Santé, to have a discussion about what's happening in the healthcare sector right now. So welcome, both of you. I would like to start asking you a little about what you've done and implemented in your organizations during COVID-19.
We have worked a lot on scaling up what we had before, like we had a lot of pilots ongoing. So we have actually really scaled up the monitoring of chronic ill patients at home, patients with diabetes and heart failure. We have also implemented in a hurry our digital platform in our primary care centers in Sweden. So at least 40 of our 100 care centers were not digital when the COVID crisis struck us, but now we have implemented 40 new care centers. So now we can have chat conversations and video conversations and do a lot of things remote with our patients. So that's the two things we have scaled up. Then we have done some specific COVID activities as well, like a fully automated lab process with using RPA technology for testing PCR technology, COVID-19 lab testing. So that's something we created during the crisis. The first part was scaling up already existing things.
We have also continued on some of the pilots we already had, for example, with distance monitoring through the LifePod concept, and we have another concept called Itachi that we have also used before, and we have been able to scale those things up quite a lot, and we made we could buy these systems for a shorter period of time during this COVID crisis, which has enabled us to implement them in more services. So Skåne University Hospital is a hospital with 14,000 people working here, and we serve an area of 1.6 million people in our 5 hospitals. And we had already a program when we tried distance monitoring for heart failure and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and now we have expanded that to 8 different areas where we try it, and it has been very positive. We also have some other got some initiatives from companies in the surroundings here during the crisis, allowing us to monitor the patients in the hospital rooms with cameras and other ways, so the nursing staff wouldn't have to enter the room and they could monitor the patients outside. So there has been a great collaboration with the local industry here, and all of this is of course time limited for just this crisis, but it has given us a good start, and everybody has been able to try these things.
Yeah. What would you say are the nicest results you've seen from these implementations?
Can I continue?
Yeah.
Yeah, with this distance monitoring, we see that we have a much better contact with the patients. We have a daily contact with the patient that way, at least for the patient, they feel it that way. And also they get a better understanding of their own illness. So they understand the different symptoms and signs, and they take care of it better. And we have actually found a number of health issues that we wouldn't have been able to detect from regular visits. and the patients, they feel safe. They feel monitored, and they have a much better contact with us. And when we need contact with them, when we see something is wrong in the distance monitoring, usually we can handle it all over the phone. So in 9 out of 10 cases, we can do that. So It has been very good. It's very positive, and the patients and the doctors all are very positive.
I can just agree with Perula. It has been a positive experience for patients, but also for doctors and nurses. Some of them were a bit skeptical before the crisis, but now everybody could actually understand the value of it from both a patient and a staff perspective. I would say that accessibility has increased in our primary care centers, that people could actually access healthcare much easier than before. And striking is actually the good parts of collaboration, both internally in different organizational structures, but also between public and private partnerships, and all of those things has been really amazing during this time, I think. I hope that we can stay.
Yes.
Forward.
So what are your thoughts? What are your main issues or considerations making that happen?
Well, to us, from a more private sector perspective, we really like the part where we can collaborate in new ways. So I would really like for the possibility to be innovative going forward is really important, to have structures that allows us to experiment further. And some of the reimbursement models have also, they have changed during the crisis, but only for a limited of time. So I think it's important to keep the new ways of getting reimbursement for digital contacts and things like that.
Assuming that you would like this development to continue, what are your main issues or considerations making that happen?
Yes, first of all, we have to, since we are a public enterprise, we have to follow the rules in the EU for the procurement of these systems that we have tried. That will, we hope that process will be speedy enough for us to pick up, so we don't get a gap from where we are. That's the number one. And there are a number of things. Many of these things are cloud-based, the services, and which is not very well seen here in Sweden because of some developments we have had in other sectors with servers being abroad with sensitive data about Sweden. So those things have to be addressed. Other things are, as I understand from Tuva's answer, it has to do with reimbursement. For example, for many patients, video visits, they have to pay almost as much as they do for a regular visit, whereas if they have a telephone consultation, it's for free. So for the patient, they see very little additional value in seeing the doctor in a picture, and they don't see it's worth that much more. So they prefer the telephone contacts. Whereas, and also we have had some, we need a little bit better technology for it. Other things is just with the distance monitoring, how is that to be paid from the government, because it's not a regular visit, and we need a new model for distance monitoring and the reimbursement for that.
So what can you do from the university hospital or region Skåne, the local government, the regional government, when it comes to these things?
I think we can solve many of those things. We just have to address them, and many of them we weren't quite aware of all the aspects until we tried it. So that's the good thing. If we should have waited and trying to anticipate every kind of problem before purchasing these solutions, it would take years, and it wouldn't be good anyway. Now we crashed into it, we had to try it, and immediately we saw all the things that have to be fixed, and then we can address them much faster and do it. Because now our resolve is we cannot handle this situation ahead of us without these solutions. It's absolutely necessary. So there is no other way for us. We have to keep on to this and develop it.
Because we have the same sense of we need we really need to continue this journey, that there is the point of no return has been reached. So it's just a matter of adjusting to the last couple of months. It's more about keeping the speed and the hope up, and actually to be able to transform some of these more long-term perspectives of. We can see that we have operations in 6 countries, and they are also in different maturity levels when it comes to digital solutions. So we have things we have to take care on in different ways in different countries, for example.
Is there anything that you see is a hurdle when adopting it even more widely within your organizations?
So a lot of these things gets back to infrastructure from our perspective, but also from rules and regulation. Where is the data? How can we use the data so that we can even be better in taking care of our patients? So a lot of these things goes back to some kind of basic data strategy for us.
We are looking forward to implementing a new electronic medical record here in this area of Sweden, and it will address many of these questions we have, and I expect also that it will increase our level of awareness in all parts of the system for these solutions. But many things, and see what of this can we apply and where, and we will still need the regular visits. But maybe we should turn it around to see, to make the default being the digital visit, and the exception being the physical visit, because we have to have that mindset. We don't really have that quite yet, but I think to reach ahead and go forward, we must start at that end.
Or many people seem to be afraid that the elderlies won't like this or won't be able to handle it. And I guess that some will always be like that. But I would like to have your take on the experience you've seen so far.
It's a lot about onboarding and teaching people on how this can be used. And now during the COVID crisis, a lot of people, also elderly people, have tried something new. We have also good experience from patients using our services, that as long as we can onboard them and make them sure and showing them the way, there is not much different in different age groups.
Okay, anything you would like to add?
I think one essence of healthcare is the relation that you build between the caregiver and the patient. They get the feeling that they are actually communicating with their doctor when they have this distance monitoring, and they feel that it's their caregiver who's looking at them. That's the human aspect of it, and it doesn't need to be lost.
Yeah. So I've seen studies showing that over the years that elderly actually feel safer because they're connected and they get help when they need it. And I guess that's what you're also seeing now. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Marianne. Now, as I promised earlier today, we're going to showcase some of the teams and solutions that are currently breaking new grounds. For our in-depth view, we chose treatment of chronic diseases as our topic of the day. But before we dive in there, I just want to mention there's, of course, other areas of health tech just as influential and innovative. So after the conference, why not stay on our website and explore our member startups? For now, I'll give the word back to Marianne. Let's get a good illustration of what health tech is all about.
Hello, I want to welcome you here, Cathrin Jung from Cross Technology Solutions. You're the communications manager, and Fredrik Westman, the CEO of Careligo. Very nice to have you joining us today. So we're going to talk about how to make chronic patients healthier, feeling better, feeling cared for 24/7, even the elderly. And we're going to talk about that this is going to happen without increasing the spendings. I want to start talking to you about the Koala Life, because Koala Life was unfortunately unable to attend today, but I have the small device here. So looking at a person my age, if I have a heart condition, I might actually use this. I would have it in my pocket and I could press it to my chest for 30 seconds. And this would help me take ECG, vitals, and would alert my doctor I need some support. Okay? So that's how I, as an ordinary person with some worries about my heart condition, can be, learning about myself very easily and have doctor's assistance should things accelerate. Well, what about if my mother, she's in her late 80s, and I know that you, Fredrik, from Careligo, you have the solution for elderly people who doesn't even want to have a mobile phone.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, we were focused on the elderly, the people above 76, because we're focusing on the multi-sick, chronically ill, and they're typically over 76 when they get the diagnosis. So we found out that they didn't have smartphones, they didn't have any usage of computers, so we needed to provide them with everything they needed, and also so we created it's a 7-inch tablet that we bring with us. Sorry if there's some reflection in the screen, but we developed our own interface, which was a huge part of this, where we removed all swipe and pinch and these kind of things. So we simplified the interface to make it easy for them to use. And the daily usage is actually, you don't have to push anything. You just step on the scale, you put on the blood pressure cuff, or whatever the measurement are for that day, and you don't have to push anything. You just read the screen with the tailored interface, just fit for that population, and you read the feedback directly in your screen. So if the weight indicates that you should take another pill, diuretics, for example, if you gained weight, the doctor also entered the patient's treatment plan in the tablet, so we can close the loop in the home of the patient and give direct feedback.
Yeah.
And with that, we engage the patient on a daily basis, and we actually shown in our clinical studies that we can up to half the hospitalization with our solution.
So people actually need to visit the hospital half the time compared to before.
Yeah, that's right.
And what is the main reason for that?
We improve their self-care behavioral. So we get these are people that have been having the same morning routine for 55 years or so, and we managed to, since this is so simple to use, take 20 seconds every day, we get them to, it becomes as natural as fetching the morning paper.
Yeah.
So they use this every day, and we can, with small nudges, we can change their behavior and get them to be better at treating themselves. And with that, we can avoid, they get less sick, and we avoid the hospitalization.
Yeah, and you've actually measured that too.
Yeah, we have now 5 independent clinical studies, all showing the same results. So
that people treat themselves better, get healthier.
Yes.
And don't need the same amount of hospital care.
Yeah, that's
so having hospital care, hospitalization. Yes. It's amazing, and I love hearing your story. I could hear it over and over again, and it's designed for these really old people like my mother who wouldn't ever use a mobile phone.
No, and one important thing we also incorporate is that they always have our staff to call when there's any questions with how they should use the equipment, or if something is the screen gone black or whatever, because these people like your mother and my mother, they need someone to call when something is not behaving as expected.
Yeah.
You can always learn. Even the oldest patient we have is over 100 years. And she can use this without any problems. on a daily basis, but whenever there's something that goes beyond what she expects on a daily basis, she needs someone to be able to call. So we have that as a crucial part of our success as well.
And what do these individuals say themselves about it?
The most common word is they feel safer. Yeah. Because they suddenly they know what to do to be able to be part of their own healthcare team. Yeah. So they can participate and be not just a receiver. They can be a participant in their own healthcare team.
Yeah. Love it. So Cathrin, you're from Cross Technology Solutions, and I know you do things for the professional part of it. You also do things for the individual patient, but I'm interested in you showing us what you do on the hospital side, the clinic side, or the primary care side for the profession, the nurse or the specialist doctors.
Yes. Thank you so much, Fredrik. Very interesting. And I just want to add, we see the same. It's about increased self-care and secureness. And our solution, we call it LifePod, consists of 2 parts. It's the patient application, and there the patient works and register data, medical data, everything from like, how do I feel today, to blood pressure and pulse and so on. And it's connected to a medical overview. And this is the part the healthcare professionals are using. And we have this very unique function. As a healthcare professional, you never need to search for the individuals with deviating values. They always know, wherever and whenever, whom are the patients with the greatest needs. It's presented in very clear triage colors, red, yellow, and green. This is just a little picture. This is the picture the healthcare professionals see. This is their entire patient population. Let's say they are working with COPD patients. So the patients on top of the lists are the patients who need treatment first. The individuals further down with really many green color, these are the patients who have their condition under control, because if you have a long-term condition or chronic disease, you must deal with it every day and every night. And you can have like good periods and bad periods. And this changes how healthcare is performed totally. It changes actually care from being reactive to proactive, because sudden changes and early warnings in the health condition can be detected early. And that's not possible in that way in the traditional care. It's really difficult to detect those early changes. And the smart digital tools, they allow this continuous connection between patient and healthcare based on medical data. And this changes the healthcare from being reactive to proactive. And this saves money, of course, because like we have seen in a COPD study that it's like 60% lower risk to get a rehospitalization because your doctor or nurse sees the early changes and can intervene before you develop an acute condition. At the same time, it decreases personal suffer and gives patients better quality of life. And we have also seen that it improves workflows and work happiness for healthcare professionals, because they actually can work what they are educated for, helping patients. And with the same resources, they can help more because they can avoid these deviations and emergency conditions.
So fewer really need them for emergency because they can take care of themselves with new tools, but they also are helped when they need it at a very early stage. So I know you have stories. I don't know if you can tell them, but I think you've actually saved lives that would never have reached the hospitals, because you could see things that the patient didn't even notice themselves.
Yeah, that's right, because as a patient, you report medical data every day. That's like a screenshot. Mm-hmm. It's a patient application, and you report different data, as I told you before, and the healthcare professional, they see the early changes and warning. And yeah, it's both cardiovascular death, and we also have avoided like a exacerbation with the COPD patient because the nurse saw that the condition got really bad, and the nurse contacted the patient, changed medication, and by that way they could avoid the exacerbation and the hospitalization, which saves costs, but it's about personal suffer as well.
Yes, of course. So you've been successful now during this last year, I think, in the south of Sweden, where you implemented the system widely. Could you tell us something about what you've learned so far?
Yeah, the pandemic really has meant a breakthrough for digital tools like our tools and many other tools from other companies, because it got so obvious the need for digital tools and to follow patients remotely, to track patients' behavior without needing them to come in physically for physical meetings. And it both increases its situation for patients, but also for healthcare professionals who have a lower risk of getting infected by COVID-19. It really meant a breakthrough for digital tools these times. It got so extremely obvious.
I know for sure that in South Sweden you've been implementing and that your vitals, the vitals you measure, and you actually can cover a large variety of diagnoses. Isn't that right, Cathrin?
One strength of our platform is that it's a flexible platform and we can adapt it for many different long-term conditions. It's everything like COPD or congestive heart failure till cirrhosis, or even like after surgery that you want to remotely be connected with your patients and act before something serious happens. And that was a huge advantage during the pandemic because we have been able to implement our platform for many. It's like, I think it's 11 different conditions our platform is used for today.
And increasing.
Yeah, and it really makes a difference.
Yeah, I would like to thank you so much, both of you. And let's continue this conversation and change the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry about that. This is what health tech is really all about, empowering the individual, patients and professionals, and as we just learned, all our mothers as well, to improve health and life quality. So let's move on to some other examples of highly beneficial tools. This time, let's look into skin cancer and for nurses at bedside, let be at the hospital or somewhere else.
We have the next panel where we're going to deep dive into reducing worries and streamlining processes for professionals, thereby offloading healthcare and improving situations for people around the world. I have with me here Jung Friis, the founder and CEO of Miiskin. Welcome.
Hello, Marianne.
Hello. And I have Noora Kinnunen, the marketing coordinator of Medanets. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you.
So, Jung, you had a personal experience when your wife was diagnosed with cancer. Is that right?
My partner Ricky, she is in the high risk group. She's blonde, blue-eyed, and is probably doing too much sunbathing during her youth, and apparently her doctors had told her she is in the high risk group. So we needed to keep looking out on her skin to see if anything was changing or anything was new appearing. And I kind of got the responsibility for that part. And that's how my story with Miiskin started, because I could see how technology could make this more convenient, more precise, and better decision making for first the individual to see if anything has been changing, and then of course seek medical advice in time. So that's a very personal story for why we built Miiskin.
Yeah. So how is that done?
So Miiskin is now a digital health platform where we deploy sophisticated AI to the persons at risk or patients, where they help themselves by monitoring their skin, and we are the tool that
photographs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're the tool that helps the user or the patient identifying changes on the skin. It can be a mole, an existing mole changing in size, shape, or color, or it can be a new mole that appears on your skin. Both these are it is guided by the doctors. They recommend that you do these on a regular level, but it might sound trivial. But finding a mole a new mole on your back or wherever on your body, or a mole that changes, is not trivial. So this is what our software helps the user to identify these. We are not diagnostic. We don't claim that we can detect skin cancer, but we help the user identify the changes.
So how is this used by healthcare?
For now, it's a long journey. So for now, it's validated, it's approved, it's recommended by the healthcare stakeholders. We would love to see healthcare also paying for it, but that's not where we are. So we have over 160 clinics and hospitals in the world that recommend our product to their patients at risk. And at the same time, we've been validated and approved by the NHS in the UK as the first technology that is approved to be used by the patients at home in between the clinical consultation, because this is not a replacement. This is basically a technology that streamlines and optimizes the relationship for the patients and the doctors.
And you recently got a nice prize yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah, last week actually we won one of the big European competition. Over 100 companies applied, companies that has gotten grants from the Horizon 2020, and 16 was selected to pitch in front of investors, and basically Miiskin won, which is of course
great. So that's just one prize in a long number of prizes, and you're spread across the globe right now, and that's so nice. You want to save the world.
Basically, we want people we want to have the technology where people and doctors can help save the world. So that's kind of but that's I think that is one of the low-hanging fruits, that use technology to support both the patients at home and the doctor in the clinics with digital information that is a lot more precise. As a side note, you can say that during the Corona crisis here, we have seen an explosion in video consultations. But what we realize, and what doctors also realize, is that video consultations is quite limited. Because if I want to show something on my leg or something on my back now during a video call like this, the quality is simply too low. So if we could amplify that experience by giving doctors access to the pre-recorded, high-definition, clear images of a lesion evolving over time, that is a totally different experience, and that is basically what the US market have seen now. And yesterday, MedCity, one of the largest health news media in the US, wrote an article about our kind of pro solutions for the doctors.
Okay, thank you so much, Jung. Over to you. So you've started addressing what I would call a low-hanging fruit within the hospital care. Could you tell us about it?
Yeah, so our solution is a mobile app for nursing that is actually planned to streamline the nurse's workflow. So the basic use case of our app is real-time bedside documentation. So the nurse documents patient data directly into the EMR system, or it's also called electronic record, while he or she is still with the patient. So the traditional way of doing this is that the nurse goes to the patient's room, documents things first on a paper, and then later, after doing the round, they go into the office of the hospital and they type in the same data again. So the app that we have frees up time to be spent with the patient, and it also reduces errors, because often you can do errors by mistake while you are typing in the same data. You have written it very quickly and can't read your handwriting, or something like that happens. And there are actually studies that our customers have done. So in Finland, the Pirkanmaa Hospital District did a study that a ward could save up to 100 hours a month that could be now spent with the patient. And previously that time was spent doing documentation work. And in Sweden, region Västra Götaland did a study that they could reduce errors by 75% when documenting patient data with the app. And the key thing here is workflow. So everything starts with identifying the patient, preferably from the wristband the patient has on their hand while at the hospital. And then I can start to do different kinds of things with the mobile app, like documenting vital parameters. And when
you can also retrieve data from the EMR system, is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So the patient lists and everything, the patient lists are retrieved from the EMR, and when you do the documentation, it's directly sent back to the EMR system.
And this can also be done outside the hospital, can't it?
Yes, that is possible. We have now a couple of customers who are also using the app in outpatient care at home hospitals. They're called home hospitals in Finland. Most of our customers, though, use these in hospital wards and inpatient wards.
But I guess that during the COVID-19 crisis, the remote care was increasing, wasn't it?
Yes, and the interest in how to use our solution also in home care kind of settings has increased considerably. Yes.
Yeah. So, decreasing worries, offloading primary care and clinics, smoothing operations, offloading professionals, and improving safety. This is all in operation already. I thank you so much for your very nice examples and hope to see you soon again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. You're welcome, Anett. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for these great examples of highly beneficial tools. Now, for our last bit, before we go on a well-earned short break, let's have a look at some examples of digital treatment. Let's look into the treatment of arthritis, Alzheimer's, and brain injuries with HealthTech.
So welcome to this session where we're going to talk about digital treatment. Okay, so I'm starting with you, Jakob. Joint Academy, please tell me how you actually treat people with a mobile tool.
Yeah, sure. And thanks for having me on. So Joint Academy is a digital clinic for chronic joint pain. So we connect patients with physical therapists through a mobile application. And then through that mobile application, we could deliver an individualized treatment. So they basically receive daily exercises, educational lessons, and different type of tracking tools while getting coached by the physical therapist. And as we mentioned, we do this completely online, so there's no physical elements involved.
And how about the comparison to traditional physiotherapy when it comes to resources spent and results and things like that?
Yeah, so the treatment that we're delivering online was initially a face-to-face intervention that was founded here in Sweden. And at that stage, you went into your clinic and you saw your physical therapist for around 3 months. and you had fantastic results from this intervention. So what we did is that we took the same type of component, such as the exercises included, the lessons, and all that stuff, and then we repackaged it in a digital format. So we could already leverage that clinical evidence and that data, and then just rather amplify it through technology. And then, since founding Joint Academy, we've already published 10 peer-reviewed clinical studies where we show not just the equivalent efficacy, but actually exceeding the original outcomes from the face-to-face version. So we could really see through peer-reviewed clinical studies that delivering these digital treatments are highly effective.
People feel even less pain after your treatment than they did in the original physical world.
Yeah, that's correct. So the standardized clinical validation tool when it comes to pain is often that you ask the patient, how much pain have you experienced the last week? And then you rate that from 0 to 10. So it's a very subjective measurement, but that's, the standard tool. And we utilize the same thing. And after around 6 months, most patients feel that they reduce their pain in half, so around 50%. And if you look at the equivalent of the in-person intervention, that's usually somewhere around 15%. So
15 to 50.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one thing is that when you do this in person, you only do it for 3 months. So usually when you stop doing your exercises, the pain comes back. So you don't really get that long-term engagement. And so just, by being able to nudge patients on a daily basis and really engage them in these exercises, you could see that gives fantastic results.
Actually do it. They use their mobile phone and they could do it wherever they are.
Yeah, and I think that makes it a lot more convenient, just removing that friction in terms of needing to, jump into your car, taking you from point A to point B, and then needing to do that several times a week to see your physical therapist when you now just have basically your physical therapist in your pocket, right? And you choose at what time during the day you prefer to do them.
And what do the physical therapists say about it?
So they really enjoy working with Joint Academy. In Sweden, we have almost 200 physical therapists working on the service. So we're basically the biggest physical therapy provider in Sweden. So I think those numbers speaks for itself. We wouldn't be able to attract so many great and talented physical therapists if they didn't really enjoy working with the tool. I think they'd also see it as a good complementary solution to their traditional clinical work, because there's a lot of gaps in between where they could work and earn additional income in Joint Academy when they're not seeing patients at a clinical level. And then, of course, during COVID, it's been a fantastic tool because, following guidelines, and our target group is, around 65-year-olds, and a lot of them have comorbidities. It makes a lot of sense that you don't go and see your physical therapist at this point of time. So just, being able to still treat them online has been very good for everybody.
I saw an economic study also. Could you tell us about that outcome?
Yeah, sure. So that is something that we're very happy to have published. It's a peer-reviewed clinical study with a health economical focus. In general, I see that is something that most digital providers today lack. It's been a lot of talks about, as you opened up, that there's a lot of exciting things happening in the digital health space, but showing cost efficacy has been harder. So we're one of the first that showed in a health economical study that was made by a third party and that got peer-reviewed and published that we actually deliver the same results, but at 75% less cost. And that was a comparison to if you see your physical therapist at a clinical level face-to-face. So we have better results and it costs 75% less. So yeah, it really.
So it's at a quarter of the traditional cost.
Yeah, it's like 20%, correct? Yeah, a quarter, yeah.
And better results.
Yeah.
That is truly amazing, and that is by using digital tools for treatment.
Correct.
Thank you, Jakob. Yeah. So then I'm curious about you, Kim, at Brain Plus. You use gaming to treat brain injuries. Please explain.
Yeah, so this is not a standard method that we're digitizing. Right now, cognitive training is something that is really sorely have been missing in acquired brain injury rehabilitation. This is based on the premise that the cognitive system of the brain can really be challenged to restructure and stim and rebuild based on cognitive challenges. So to do that, you have to design specific computer games that are targeting things like your attention function, your memory function, or what is called executive control, which is your ability to control behaviors, etc. So simply, that is one of the really good things about a digital tool, is that it can calibrate the level of challenge very, very precisely and specifically to a person's ability level, to the level of cognitive deficit they have. And this is something that you can't do as a regular clinician, just trying to get people to solve riddles or whatever. There, a digital tool is actually much more efficient. And it's also basically you have your training tool in your hand, right? You have it on a mobile app for the patients. You have a daily training plan, and you have a number of different exercises in here that you go in and you play an exercise with. So that's one of our treatment products that we're very excited about. We're working with some of the Danish neurorehabilitation clinics. We have a peer-reviewed randomized controlled clinical trial coming out early next year that we're very, very excited about as well.
On what kind of diagnosis?
That's on acquired brain injury. We have a clinical trial pipeline also, including Alzheimer's disease treatment, of Alzheimer's disease, and healthy aging for preventing Alzheimer's disease. So those are some of the areas that we're also using the digital treatment tools for, both for, you can say, for treating the disease, but also for more preventative efforts, which is also where the digital tools can really make a big difference, I believe.
Yeah. So you're already on the market, and that is on self-inflicted injuries, or sorry, did you say?
That's from traumatic brain injury and stroke in Denmark, just in Denmark.
And stroke.
Yeah, so okay. acquired brain injury, something that you weren't born with, something that acquired, unfortunately, in your life.
Yeah, okay. So I'm always looking for when you're going to solve Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, but you'll come to that.
So we actually have good preliminary results coming out of studies we have with Oxford University and Aarhus University, where an early detection test that was originally developed by Oxford and then we co-developed and gamified it, that is proving to be able to identify a specific memory problem that happens to people with Alzheimer's disease. And it happens, this memory problem, we can start measuring long before the clinical symptoms appear. And the two trials are actually showing the preliminary results are positive, and this means that we could potentially identify people at risk much earlier for making much earlier interventions. And one of the new products we have is actually also for dementia treatment, and that's digitized in an existing proven method.
So it's not only it's you actually onto treatment, but you're also giving a chance for earlier diagnostics so that you can start treating earlier. Of course, offloading and increasing quality of life and health for people. So chronic diseases might actually be treated digitally with a lot less effort from profession, making room for taking care and spending more time on others that actually need surgery, specialist care, or simply just holding a hand. So I thank you both, and I hope you will touch the lives of millions of people onwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you very much.
So, after all these great examples of health tech changing world care, I think we've all earned a quick break to stretch our legs before we move further into the future of health tech, when we'll return with perspectives from Brazil, Peru, China, the US, the UN, and of course the Nordics. And we'll have some world-breaking news, so don't go far. You have a little under 5 minutes now. Keep the session on for some entertainment, and be sure to be back. See you in a bit. welcome back to the movement. And welcome to the future. Now we'll move on to looking into 2021 and beyond. I hope you had a good break, were able to stretch your legs, maybe did a few push-ups. And now, before we move on to our world-breaking news and live panel sessions, let's take a quick trip to Brazil. Let's see how the 17th largest healthcare system in the world is doing and how they are trying to reach value-based care through health tech in this $44 billion a year healthcare market. Let's hear from Clemente Nobrega and José Luis Barbosa. Welcome to Brazil and welcome to the future.
Welcome, Clemente Nobrega and José Luis Barbosa. What is the current situation in Brazil?
Because of the pandemics, all of that tendencies that were lurking in the background, which we thought would come, but would come very, very slowly. Maybe in 10 years, we would be speaking about telehealth or telemedicine. Everybody, it happened this year. And the country is like a sort of burning with activities and new initiatives. A very interesting thing which happened in our country this year because of the pandemics was the acceleration of the use of telehealth, telemedicine. Mm-hmm. Up to this point in time, telemedicine is not officially allowed by the Brazilian authorities. It have only a provisional license to okay, go there, people are needing, but everybody knows that it has no coming back. It will not go back. And so a huge amount of startup initiatives and health techs and everything are being proposed. So based on initiative based upon telemedicine and other kind of technologies. About 30 new health plans are entering the Brazilian market in the last two years. Only this year, $25 million in health plans, not generally in health startups in general, which are more or less 500 now, increasing, but in every kind of activity. So remote sensors and telemedicine alone, and primary care, and data analytics and things like this, but only in which concerns to health plans. There are about 30 new. So you see, all of them sensed after the most of them, not every of them, most of them sensed the opportunity to enter the market because of the pandemic. And then they are increasing they are improving in the number of is increasing very, very fast. The inspiration of everybody is the Oscar health plan. I don't know if you ever, and let us see what is going to happen. This could have created a huge demand for, let me put like this, ancillary services.
What are the steps that we need to give forward in terms of the model you've thought?
In this perfect storm which came with the pandemics, it accelerated, among other things, the trends towards value-based healthcare. It's not a new issue in the country. There are even big networks of hospitals that are experimenting in order to learn something about that, and ISHN and measurements and things like this, but it was accelerated. So this thing is really interesting, because we have, myself, together with some people from the university, we sensed that there is a demand for a kind of a model which serves as guidelines for those people, those companies from whichever sector we can think, health plans or private companies or hospitals even, if they want to capture outcomes from patients, health outcomes, because the value-based healthcare approach depends upon knowing the outcomes. It's outcomes related to the costs to get these outcomes. So nothing goes on without a robust, a solid process for capturing, analyzing, and so certificate the outcomes. So we wrote a model which we call MCPAD, and we pronounce that in our in Portuguese as a MACPAD. MCPAD. What is MACPAD? MACPAD is a model for capture, processing, and analysis of health outcomes, because we saw that it's not enough to have a good process of interacting with the patients and collecting data, and so it's not like this, because you have to involve the doctors, for example, the service providers. What happens to one patient in one medical condition, for example, so somebody who has prostatic cancer or something like this and gets to a surgery or something, it's not just to ask how he's feeling after the procedure. You have to have a process to give feedback for the service providers and ensure that the outcomes related by the patients are being improved with time. And that implies that you have to build up a management systems around the process of collecting outcomes. And that is the main thing about our model. It's a complete model, and it has a twofold purpose. It intends to be a guideline for those who want to measure very consistently and technically, statistically sound outcomes in whatever medical condition you think. It's the first thing. And the second thing, we intend to be this model to be the standard by which one external entity could certify these outcomes. Go there and say, look, you are operating so according to the rules, to the norms of the MACPAD of this model, and so I will certificate that you are a trustful provider. That is the two things. But the process is not simply the assessment and or the certification of a collection of outcomes. It's the process of certification of a management system.
Who are you foreseeing to have to manage this system?
I believe that we have this kind of scenario. We are spending 3% of our time with prevention and 97% trying to fix health. Yeah. So it's a lot of time and money that is spent for nothing. There's more. We need more information. We have data that produce information. So information from data. If you don't have a model or a management idea how we can work with information, the information have to be inside the organization, between professionals, and information between the professional and the patient friend. If you don't have a model that get the whole picture how this will work, will never function. Because we have to move from data to information, and from information to find a more decision, and decision to change the cultural. Let us get together. Let's help HealthTech Swedish company that really want to come here and really want to do something.
Yes.
To make a soft landing at the Sound Hub, so they can possibly to find companies that are thinking or maybe are doing something that the technology can get together. It's the way to come in the market.
The local entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur
that's trying to solve a problem. With
so
the HealthTech Nordic entrepreneur that has parts of the solution.
We have high-tech solutions in Brazil. They have soft tech. Soft tech and high tech can go together and be a high super tech. And the companies have contacts. They are in Brazil, so they have the market. We have the technology. So let us job together and use a model, as Clement proposed, to guide in how the change should be done in the market.
Thank you so much to both.
And now, from Brazil, on to world-breaking news from not just one, but two amazing health techs. In a bit, you'll meet Clucor, making cancer diagnostics faster and more accurate. But first, here's Marianne with PainDrainer, who have exciting news about an upcoming launch.
Welcome, PainDrainer, with Carl Borrebäck, founder and chairman of the board, and Anki Malmborg Haga, the CEO. You're both serial entrepreneurs from the life science field, and now even in health tech. So what is PainDrainer, and what is so special about it?
Well, PainDrainer is the first truly patient-centric digital tool for chronic pain patients. And by patient-centric, I mean that the software adapts to each individual patient and give personal advice on how they can balance their activity and save energy for things that they really like. The tool is based on artificial intelligence. So we have an AI engine, and it's also based on accepted clinical practice. And it opens up a complete accessibility, which I think is super important, because it's only 1% to 2% of chronic pain patients that actually get specialized help.
And I would like to add as well that the societal burden is enormous. In the US, it costs society, chronic pain costs society more than $600 billion US. And in Sweden, little Sweden, it costs more than 90 billion Swedish crowns.
What is your target group now that you're launching this for the first time?
Well, naturally, our target group is chronic pain patients. There are 190 million chronic pain patients in the US and Europe. And our target group, more specifically, is mainly women aged over 35 years old. They have a need to change their activity balance and the motivation to change their life. Also, they have a digital competence, of course.
So what results have you seen so far from your trials?
Well, we will launch the first product based on evidence from world-renowned pain clinics, patient organizations, and test groups. And we've seen that we actually have evidence for improved quality of life. We have agreement with the really top-tier hospitals like Presbyterian Hospital in New York, associated with Weill Cornell, and Newton Wesley in Boston, associated with Howard Medical School, and finally, but not the least, UC San Diego's Health Science Center. And those agreements are encompassing clinical trials, which takes about 12 weeks and costs just a fraction of what we are normally used to in life science.
So from the healthcare and the professional side, what impact do they foresee?
Well, I must say that the reception that we've gotten so far from clinicians and physiotherapists is overwhelming. And I think it's because we are addressing a problem that they face every day in their daily work. And for them to be able to increase the quality of life of their patients is a dream.
So what does it look like?
Well, I mean, it's a very simple device to use. It takes 1 to 2 or 3 minutes a day to record your activities, and then you can ask the app in your phone, in the tablet, or in your computer. If I do this, what can I expect to have? What kind of pain can I have at the end of the day? So it's really a very individualized, and it's basically a pain coach in your pocket.
So what are your immediate steps now?
Yeah, we're launching now in December in Sweden in a pilot launch. And in the immediate future after that, we will plan for launching in the US and in parallel develop the next version of the tool. And in doing that, we will deepen our collaboration with Massive Entertainment. As you know, it's one of the largest gaming companies, specialists in engagement. And that is a very exciting combination.
Is there anything you would like to add?
I can just say that one of the most exciting things coming from life science is the speed which we can deliver help to chronic pain patients using digital tools like Pain Drainer. That's, to me, is amazing.
Yeah, as you know, we both have experience from pharmaceutical development where clinical trials take years and they cost millions. So with our short timelines for that, we might be able to help at least a fraction of these patients already next year.
Thank you very much for joining us today, and I wish you all the luck in the world saving people from chronic pain.
Congratulations and good luck. And now, on to ClueCore, making cancer diagnostics faster and more accurate.
Welcome, Carl-Johan Ivarsson and Sara Olin of ClueCore. So Carl-Johan, you're the co-founder and CEO, and Sara, you're working business development. And ClueCore is a company that has successfully been providing visualization of advanced data to the healthcare industry for 13 years. Now I know you will break new ground when it comes to cancer diagnostics early next year. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
We are, exactly as you say, breaking new grounds in the area of cancer diagnostics by combining visualization, which makes it easier for patients to understand the diagnosis they are given, with new data technologies such as RNA-seq, combining all that in a software solution that can be provided to labs and hospitals globally.
So what difference will that make?
So the biggest difference is that when you move some of your classification, how you divide patients into subgroups from different type of assays into software, you can save money and save time in the labs, which in the end will give a better treatment to the patients and a faster treatment.
So the diagnosis will be possible to make earlier?
Maybe not earlier, but faster, in that sense that the type of competences that are required in the lab are not so many, so you don't have to do 4 different tests. So we work with partners around the world who are what we call data owners. The reference data owners are the specialists in, for instance, leukemia. Yeah. And together with them, we develop a classifier model that can be used to classify patients with leukemia. So, and in that process, we use all the knowledge that is existing. And since it is software-based, it is much faster to introduce new knowledge compared to if it's based on chemistry, for instance.
You will start doing things with this new product. Can you tell us a little bit of that?
What we have now is a prototype that is available for and is used for testing in leukemia, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and that is especially important for children. It is actually, at least in Sweden, the deadliest cancer form for children. So the classifier and the model is now testing, and we expect very good feedback on that early next year, I would say.
So Sarah, when can we expect this available on the market?
We have to wait until the CE mark is ready, which will be in May 2022.
And that is for Europe, the CE mark.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, and for the rest of the world?
Yeah, then it looks a little bit different. You have different options. So for instance, in the US, there are a possibility to go with something called lab developed tests that we potentially will do, and then maybe it can be available earlier for the US.
Mm. Okay. Anything else you would like to tell us?
Yeah, I think we started off by talking about visualization,
Yes.
and that is really the foundation and why we exist as a company. And the type of what visualization really gives patients and the treating doctors is the possibility to communicate with each other. So if you go to a doctor's today and you have broken your arm, then they at some point will show you an X-ray saying, here is where the break is.
Yeah.
And it is really good communication. It's good and easy for everybody to understand what is happening. But if you have cancer and a complicated cancer, no one shows you any pictures, but because there are not any pictures. We will be able to provide the treating doctor with a visualization of how a specific patient falls into the space of other cancer patients, which will make it easier. Hey, look, you're part of that group. And that is how we're going to treat you. So it might not make the treatment better, but will absolutely make the communication between the doctors and the patients better.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and I wish you the best of luck onwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all our speakers so far for sharing these fantastic examples of solutions empowering the individual patients and the healthcare professionals and making healthcare accessible and affordable for all. And now, let's move on to our panels and talk about the HealthTech movement one step further. To set the scene, as we know today, 10% of the world's population accesses 90% of healthcare resources. But the last decade of tech development has resulted in mobile phones being available in practically every family. HealthTech builds on this technology, and it has the power to democratize health with solutions affordable to everyone, patients, as well as professionals everywhere. HealthTech will enable people to perform better self-care and enable healthcare professionals to care for more people and from a larger distance. So to discuss this, we have invited two panels, one global and one Nordic, to expand on these immense opportunities. We'll start with our global view. And let me introduce our global panel. We have with us today Felicia Lindhoff, founder and CEO at the Sino-Scandinavian Innovation and Entrepreneur Center. We have Magnus Gunnarsson, Principal, Strategy Consulting, Digital Health, Product and Business Development, GSAM LLC. Sylvia Aespe, Human Rights and Citizen Security Lawyer, and the former Director, Ministry of Women and Vulnerable Populations in Peru. And then I hope we have Jonas Svensson with us, the Head of Global Innovation and Technology at UNOPS. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. So we talked about HealthTech enabling better health for all, and I'm really interested in hearing all your different views on this and what opportunities and hurdles you see. So shall we start? Sylvia, how are the needs developing in Peru, and how do you think they're best to address?
Hello, good morning from Peru. I would like to speak a little bit about my experience as director of the National Program Against Violence on Women and Children. As policymaker, you realize that especially in pandemic, you cannot reach every single victim of family violence or domestic violence. We have been in quarantine for many months. Right now, we are still in a state of emergency. So we've had the families inside their houses. And what happens here in Peru is that we have the way that violence is manifested is inside the family members, the parents, the uncles. Here, people live in community. In the same house, we have grandparents, parents, grandchildren, uncles, and nephews. Everybody lives together. So we have had an increase, especially identified in children and girls and young girls. So the question as a policymaker as well, how can we protect them to prevent them from being victims of violence, as well as how we can treat children and adolescents who have been victims of violence. Our statistics, we have 55% of the people who come to the service of the national government, the program against violence, are because of psychological and emotional violence. You know, the one that's verbal, there's insults, degrading treatments, and we cannot be in every home and in every house and in every school. So this pandemic has to make us change our paradigm and realize that the services that we are giving are services that are 50 or 60 years behind. And we need technology to address and to protect our children. Peru, as the whole region of Latin America, is basically young. We have 50% of our population is under 30, and 30% of our population is under 17. So we are a young region, and we need to protect for our future children and adolescents to not live in violence. We have also in our statistics that more than 40% of our cases of sexual violence are of teenagers and children. So we have aggressive violence, very strong against children and girls and young girls and adolescents. And how can we reach them to prevent this from happening, as well as to take care of them in a model that has collapsed? Our healthcare system does not have enough mental health services, and we don't have specialized programs for these victims. So I think that not only Peru, but the whole region needs to leap and cut processes and thinking on building hospitals or building different self-care spaces when we are not allowed to interact. So I think that technology will help us be faster and be more efficient, as well as be like we are. The violence here is critical for children and adolescents. So if we use technology, that's also a language that they are familiar with. The amount of smartphones that have been sold here in Peru and that are used is very high. Even though we are a developing country, people like to buy technology. During the pandemic, during the quarantine, what was mostly sold were computers, printers, and different kinds of technology, because people were inside their homes, and the department stores sold all of their technology implements. So I think that is an area that neither the government nor the private sector are addressing, and could help in a fast way to change and to create an impact on the future and on children.
It does sound like HealthTech can have a huge impact in that area. Felicia, I would really like to hear from you as well. What is China looking for as a region? And do solutions outside of China have a fighting chance?
Sorry, the connection is a little bit poor. Can you say that again?
Sorry, let's try again. What is China looking for when it comes to health tech solutions? And do solutions from the outside have a fighting chance?
Yes. So China is, when it comes to health tech, one of the more welcoming health tech is actually to help with elderly care, because due to China's increasing elder population, there's a very big need to get better, especially due to Corona as well, and people not being able to visit hospitals the same way they used to before. So for elderly care, there's a huge need, and we see that when we work with our partners, that elderly care is one of those sectors that is very important to find new tech solutions for. When it comes to another interesting thing is the digital health in China. Because before COVID, digital health in China was not moving super quickly. There were some online hospitals, but it was mostly people prefer to visit doctors for offline consultations. But during the COVID-19 crisis, the digital consumption increased a lot, and a lot of hospitals also preferred patients to connect to a digital hospital. So there were a lot of policies and a lot of clinics opened, a lot of doctors signing up to these internet, to these online hospitals. Why it hasn't moved, so the digital health in China hasn't developed so fast, is one of the reasons is also, amongst many, is that people haven't really adapted to that system yet. People are still more into face-to-face meetings with doctors. But now, due to COVID, it's very interesting to see that both the government and people are searching for more and more ways to develop this digital healthcare and digital meetings with the physicians and doctors. So it's still a process, but it's very interesting to see how people's behaviors, that is usually so hard to change, through this COVID crisis, it can change people's behaviors in a very fast pace, and to accept new ways of meeting doctors.
That would be great. All right. So families and children in Peru, elderly care in China. Magnus, what are the current US trends?
Yeah, good morning. There is, of course, an underlying trend. Thankfully, there was an underlying digital health trend when COVID hit. And like everyone else is reflecting here, COVID was a catalyst to move that trend forward, maybe even a decade. At the same time, the US is, with any technology, very diverse. And you have the latest and the greatest available from the key innovators in Bay Area and other regions. At the same time as you have completely underserved regions where, obviously the care problem is also more pronounced. So the US remains to be an extremely interesting market for the HealthTech Nordic member companies. It's a huge opportunity to ride this new digital trend that has been accelerated through COVID. And we've seen an interesting miniature trend within the COVID period. Might be worth mentioning. We saw that the televisits, like Aldo was referring to before here, went from nothing to maybe 35%, from nothing in the beginning of March to 35% in mid-May. And then when things settled down a little bit here during the summer, people went back to the institutions, etc. So, but what we can conclude is there is a meaningful change in the use of digital health that is probably sustainable and that will grow from here. It is, obviously very important for the HealthTech Nordic companies to join that trend. What I think is also important for that purpose is that in general, a very rigid healthcare system and healthcare delivery system has taken some dramatic action to make stuff happen. And that means implementing new technology where it makes sense in a very pragmatic way. I'm sitting here in Denver, Colorado right now, and Colorado is a good example where the governor stepped in and called for a meeting with his colleagues, brought out the telehealth law on the table, and they basically paragraph for paragraph changed things to make it easier to implement digital health. At the same time as those pragmatic changes are happening, I think we should be aware that quite a few of them are temporary. So for example, healthcare, the televisits has been billed at the same charge as the office visits. And that may not be a sustainable business model. So for example, only 4 days ago here, November 30, CDC, which creates or approves the codes for how care gets billed, actually approved a new set of COVID-related charge codes. So we have a trend, we have an underlying technology trend, we have an underlying trend of change into digital health in care, and we have these pragmatic changes that have become a catalyst for the overall trend. At the same time, I think it's going to take some time to see all these changes go through.
Time is what we're running out of right now. Yeah. I'm sorry, I have to cut you there. Fantastic. Thank you, Felicia, Sylvia, and Magnus for allowing us to peek into your region and your area. Thank you for your valuable insights.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now let's move a little closer to home. Our next panel represents different Nordic perspectives on democratization of health, with solutions affordable and equally for everyone. So a warm welcome to our second set of panelists for our Nordics panel. We have with us Tordo Heinrichsen, Senior Advisor at Nordic Innovation, Mika Heinetmäki, Founder and CEO of SensorTrend, Simunder Otson, Co-founder and CMO of Sidekick Health, and Marianne Larsson, Director of HealthTech Nordic. Welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Likewise, thank you so much.
Thank you. Talking about Nordic perspectives, Tordo, could you start by telling us what Nordic initiatives you see that may drive or promote a radical shift in healthcare?
Well, thank you. Our task at Nordic Innovation is to make the Nordic region the most integrated health region in the world. And here there are two issues we're focusing on. It's sharing of health data across the Nordic borders. And secondly, to put more focus on preventive health. So these are the two key ingredients we see to improve quality of life. And what we have been doing is that we have been doing a legal overview, mapping out the possibilities when it comes to sharing secondary data for innovation. We've been running hackathons where we are trying to showcase what can be done if we give increased access to data. And now the Nordic ministers have prioritized health within the Nordic cooperation. And we know that we're going to work with this topic for at least the next 4 years. So in terms of concrete activities that we are at least engaged in and that we hope that will be a catalyst for the shift towards a more digital and preventive health. There I can mention, for example, a project we are powering called Nordic Digital Medication Platform, where the aim is to establish a marketplace for accreditation and distribution of digital health apps. Because we believe that this will help the Nordic citizens to assess quality health apps through channels they trust, and at the same time create a business model for companies developing digital health solutions. Another example that we will be initiating is a so-called use case, where we will try to simulate the effect it will have on actual businesses in the Nordic if we succeed in realizing our vision for 2030, that is a fully digital and integrated health region. So by doing this, we hope to get a better understanding of the coming needs, the effects of this for the citizen and the businesses, and to inspire and even expedite this paradigm. And then we will follow up with a business case where we will sort of put a dollar figure on the fiscal value of if we realize this vision. So this is actually what we are doing or will be doing in the coming months.
That sounds great. Thank you. Mika, talking about understanding needs, I know you are one of those rare people who managed to solve your own problem while helping others along the way. Would you tell us a little bit about what you solved with your own health challenge?
Right. So there's a community of tens of thousands of people with type 1 diabetes in developing open source solutions. It started with remote glucose monitoring for parents of children with diabetes. With a flick of a wrist, they could see the glucose of their child wherever that child was. And that was a huge relief to them and peace of mind. And from that, it evolved into automated insulin delivery. So currently, my app gets a message from my continuous glucose monitor and then controls my pump based on that. So when my glucose goes up, it tells my pump to give me more insulin. And when my glucose goes down, it tells my pump to give less insulin. And the results are truly beautiful. It's really easy to live this way. I don't need to do so much manually. And for both of these solutions, it took more than 3 years for the commercial manufacturers to follow suit and bring something similar to market through the official route.
What is the reaction from manufacturers and authorities towards your solution?
Right, we have seen different responses to this. Wherever I've seen digitalization, it has meant more power to the people. And I think we all see that currently digitalization has meant that people can implement these kind of medical tools. It's easy enough, it's cheap enough, and so people will implement these. And I've seen 2 great examples where people have really seen that. One is the Ministry of Social Affairs and Health in Finland. They paid us, my company SensoTrend, to build the Night Scout API on top of the Finnish personal health record system. So we built the open source interface into that, and it's now part of the official regulated healthcare infrastructure. And also HUS, the biggest hospital system in Finland, has commissioned us to build a Night Scout API so that their nurses and doctors can see the same data as people using these solutions are in their daily use. So there are challenges, and some people might be scared of this, but I'm here to tell you that it can be done, and we have done it. And if you face regulatory problems, just ping me and let's work through them together. You should do it too.
Fantastic, thank you. Sam, from your point of view, with Sidekick Health actually making people improve their lifestyle, improve their health. What is there that prevents people all over the world from just using Skype Health already today?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and the question we ask ourselves pretty much every day, and then obsess on getting it into more hands. No, I think this is a process. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day, but you know, things are really coming together and moving really fast. Just like now, we were represented on this panel by Reyneson, coming from the helicopter view of you know, looking at the society, and myself coming from, you know, having feet on the ground, working as a medical doctor with patients preventing complications from chronic diseases. So in our case, there are, I would say, the consensus is there. So we have come quite far in the past years. COVID has just accelerated everything. You know, it's easier to demonstrate the value, not only the patient outcome value, but also the monetary value and the process value of having digital tools in the hands of patients. So we firmly believe that, you know, if things progress like they've been progressing, we can capture and help a lot of patients, not the whole world, but we take one step at a time. So these are truly exciting times, but of course there are hurdles, and it's always difficult to see, you know, when there's a solution that has proven clinical impact and it doesn't gain traction, and you know, the project doesn't exceed. We have seen many cases like that, and there are challenges in terms of the kind of the commercialization beyond the grant stage, which is a barrier. But then again, it also sorts out. You know, you have to have a certain rigor and to have a clinical method that is robust. So there is not room for everybody, of course, for everybody's solution. So yeah, I would say hurdles in terms of reimbursement, hurdles in terms of healthcare provider acceptance. I would say the hurdle of you know, accessing patients like through the smartphones is not a hurdle anymore. We've seen that, you know, the majority of the world has access to a smartphone, yeah, so I think we're getting there.
World domination eventually. Marianne, looking at all these fantastic solutions and knowledge in the Nordics, how do you think we can all help each other from here to move forward and change world care?
Well, I know that internet access may still be a problem, but I know that UNOPS, Global Innovation Centers, are planning to, you know, work on investing in infrastructure, net access in rural places on Earth. But we live in times right now that may actually bring good and equal care to all, regardless of weight or wealth or age, and across the globe. So the technology is not the problem. You've seen some solutions today. We've got hundreds in the Nordics, and there are solutions elsewhere, of course, as well. The infrastructure is developing, and the drive and funding needs to be there. And the drive to do this, as you know, reimbursement systems, etc., that's just signatures on paper. You can change that. So the future looks bright.
Fantastic. And like we said, the future is here. And we've also arrived to the point where I have to say thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And concur with your last words there, Marianne. Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel, Toro, Sam, and Marianne.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
And now we are reaching the end of our time together today. But before we let you go, we actually have one very important question to all of you. Were you inspired? I hope the answer is yes. And I hope you have a lot of thoughts and questions that you're sitting in there burning in with. So if you do, join our movement. It's no strings attached. You can ask, you can engage as much or as little as you like. You can engage with the health tech industry, with professionals, with patients, governmental functions, authorities, and of course with us. So follow the link here on the website just below this video or in the chat. You can also find us, of course, on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. And we hope to hear from you soon. For now, it's a goodbye from me and a goodbye from all of us at HealthTech Nordic, from all the partners, Innovation Skåne, Cobis, HealthTech Hub Copenhagen, Invest in Skåne, Norway HealthTech, Sahlgrenska Science Park, Smile Incubator, and Symbion. Thank you so much for joining today and in watching and engaging in the HealthTech movement. See you again soon.
The world is a sick place. In spite of its beauty, millions of humans suffer, many of them unnecessarily, even amongst your friends and family. And the healthcare industry still relies heavily on outdated and inefficient modes of working. However, in the Nordic region, world leading in health tech, entrepreneurs and startups are working towards a paradigm shift. Many of these are part of HealthTech Nordic, a community accelerating the growth of startups as well as uniting pioneers to create better health worldwide. HealthTech Nordic isn't about the future. It's about the hundreds of startups acting here and now, about the hundreds of worldwide solutions already in use. It's also about those in development, with innovations far beyond what many thought previously possible. Healthcare isn't always about finding treatment. It's also about the ability to distribute them, or even preventing the need for them altogether. With digital tools and solutions, the existing healthcare capacity can increase dramatically, not only saving lives, but also leading to a better quality of life, with more possibilities and less dependency. The world is a sick place. However, through providing new and better ways of giving and receiving healthcare, the companies within HealthTech Nordic are at the forefront of a paradigm shift. We already have the digital tools and solutions to empower you as an individual, as a patient, or as a healthcare provider. Together, we can change how we view healthcare. Together, we can change how the world cares.